The feeling is the place that I stay longest, because I want to feel it and I want to know where this feeling is coming from. And the feeling, it's so interesting that you say about patterns, because if you don't let the feeling come, you are just following the pattern of pushing it away. And this is all to do with your limited mindset. And your limited mindset is holding you back. And it's holding you because it's safe. Well, there's a big word there, change. There's a fantastic man called Alan Watts who said that the illusion is that change takes time. But the reality is change happens when you want it.
Hi, I'm Carey, and welcome to the Eat, Nourish, Love podcast. For over 20 years, I've created events, raised over 4 million for good causes, and been lucky enough to meet some incredible people along the way. This podcast is about exploring stories and insights that really shape us, with inspiring guests from wellness, business, self-care, and personal growth. It's about learning to trust our intuition and discovering what truly matters, and how, with hard work, belief, and tenacity, we can make so many things happen. Welcome to the Eat, Nourish, Love podcast. I'm so excited, as always, to have some amazing guests on this show, but this is a very personal one for me, and I want to welcome Libbla to the podcast this morning.
Hello. Lovely to see you. Thank you for having me.
So, Libbla Kelly is founder of Right to Rise, a wellbeing initiative, a concept and a quiet revolution on how women are supported through handwriting, backed by neuroscience. Right to Rise is delivered through a screen, but in practice itself is journal-led, built around handwriting as a tool for self-awareness, emotional processing, and rewiring thinking to move you forward. Her ebook library covers titles designed for women and women-led businesses. Her client list includes the NHS, Marriott Hotels, the Argos Cosmetics, and she brings around 30 years of people development experience and has coached a great many women individually. I personally have been journaling now for, quite a few years. I've got evidence of it here, but honestly, it is one of the things that has actually really helped me transform a lot of the things I do, not only in my personal life, but my business life, but also it just gives me time. And I think it's extraordinary what Libbla has done. So welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely introduction.
Well, you're an amazing journalist. We've been on stage at the Nourish Lab Autumn Fair, and we've done some podcasts together, and we go back many, many years. And actually, what you're doing I think is phenomenal.
Thank you. That's very kind. It always makes me smile because we met because we were both standing on a piece of paper with our intentions that we had written by hand in lockdown. So it always makes me smile when I think, now, where did I meet Caroline? Oh, yes. We were both standing on a piece of paper.
Well, actually, it went back before that because you've written this amazing book and you came to the fairs, didn't you, before that? But honestly, you don't really get to know people like that and obviously, and also with the things we're doing now. So just interestingly, you were made stationery monitor at 9, weren't you? So what made you realise that pen would be a thread to your work and your life in the future?
Well, funnily enough, I think it's only now that I realise that. It was only when I started writing my first journal, which was for young people. But when I was made stationery monitor, I was really upset because I'd just moved from Ireland to England, and I was struggling. I'd lost my home and my friends, and it was all new. And this wonderful teacher saw this, and she gave me responsibility. And so I was, walked into this double-fronted cupboard, and there were all these exercise books and pencils and pens, and it was just this smell. I can still smell it now, and I loved pencils and paper, and that was the first time I really realised that I did, and that I used to love it when I got a new exercise book and opened it up and started writing in it. And hindsight is a wonderful thing most of the time, but everything's a wonderful thing if we can process it. So I really feel like where I am now is helping and supporting women in processing. And I think you agree that it is processing that helped you through the hard times and drew you towards journaling.
Hugely. I just want to go back a step actually to the thing of opening that stationery cupboard where there were pencils and journals, and the children don't get it in the way that we used to get it. So it is something that was, it stays with you for your life, doesn't it? That whole idea of the journaling. I love journals and love books, and have always bought notebooks. And my own children always ask me why I've given them another notebook. Maybe I'm hoping that they'll start journaling. But why a pen and not a keyboard?
There isn't that much research, but it is beginning to happen. There was an amazing man called James Pennebaker in 1987, I think, who wrote about the difference. And it uses different parts of your brain. So the curious thing is that we believe nowadays that everything's about speed and getting it done and ticking the box and, but actually everything isn't. If you slow things down, you probably will have more quality of time. Speeding things up just makes you go faster and faster and faster. And then, in fact, the overwhelm can burn you out. The difference between typing and writing is that when you type, your brain is actually looking for a letter. And then it finds the letter and off it goes. And, the faster you get, the less time, it takes to do this. It becomes an automatic thing. Whereas with a pencil or pen, you are actually slowing down your brain. You are searching inside your memory. There are parts of the brain that are actually kicking off in a different way than when you're typing. And so your hippocampus is there and your amygdala to a certain extent because you're trying to find something to write about, and it's all quite exciting. But the action, the dexterous action of holding a pencil or pen in your hand, putting it to paper and writing just slows everything down. And you're finding words and forming letters that you knew all those years ago when you were young, when you were learning to write. So the horrifying thing now to me is that I know in Denmark and in the US, they're actually taking children straight to the tablet. They're not learning to write until they've mastered the keyboard. And it's so interesting because, again, research is being done there that what's happening is when they go to learn to write, they're getting far more of their letters back to front than they would if they hadn't gone to handwrite first. So it's still quite early stages. But I have to stress the biggest thing of all here is that there is a part of our memory that is used when we handwrite, and it is not used when we type. And our memory is a muscle. And if we aren't using all of it, it will start to wither.
Yeah.
And if we stop handwriting, our brain will evolve differently. But look at what's happening these days with dementia and memory loss. And we need to do everything we possibly can for our memory. And you know what's really fun is when I talk to older people, sort of in their 80s and 90s even, and those that can still write, they complain that it's all a bit scratchy and difficult, but they're still loving it. And they say that when they handwrite, they reach their memory much more easily, which is absolutely fascinating to me.
Oh my gosh, that's absolute. I mean, honestly, what you just said is so powerful. And I know that when I put the pen to paper and I just pause and stop and then start writing and just go, no, this is a non-negotiable thing. I'm just putting pen to paper. The peace and the calm that comes of it, and using the pen, and we forget how to write, and it's a skill as well. We need to use that skill all the time because you forget it, don't you? My writing is really illegible most of the time. So and I always try and make it really, really easy to read, and still people can't read it. So anyway, there we go. But I love it. You so much of well-being is about reaching out. And there's real strength in that. But you ask women to reach in as well. So what do you mean by that?
So we reach out because the suffering is within us and we don't want to go there. So we're externally looking for things that make us feel better. And some of those things can be amazing. I mean, absolutely extraordinary. And I would absolutely, say to people, completely go for it. But what I wouldn't reach out to do is to find them all scrolling. Because we tend to also reach out to our phone, which is where we would start these days, which is scary. And we start scrolling and then we lose the sort of real reason why we're reaching out in the first place. But if you have a local person who does a massage, or you have a lovely therapist you can go to, or you can go to a great class, whatever it is, get your, your movement going. All of these things are fantastic. But if you want the truth, the real truth about the challenge that is making you suffer or having pain, if you sit in silence and write, the truth will come up. And we are scared to go there. And we're also scared to write it down in case somebody sees it. And that is 90% of the people that I talk to. They say, I don't want to write it down in case my husband or my partner or my children or somebody sees it. You can hide it, you can burn it, you can do whatever you like with it. But all I'm trying to encourage people to do is reach inside, to find the glow, to find the fire, to find what it is that is holding you back. And once you find it, it is an extraordinary thing, because you start to write and the words just pour out.
It is, because you internally, I find that sometimes when I'm writing, I'm asking myself a question, and I start writing something, and I go, "What are you? Hang on a minute. What is your brain talking about? Where is that coming from?" And you're identifying thoughts that actually aren't necessarily true. That it's your conditioning or it's your imposter syndrome, whatever it is. And you go, "Well, when did you decide that that was how you felt about yourself? Or when did you?" You know, and sometimes I'm writing and my mind goes, and I'm writing nothing, and I'm going, and it brings you back to the page, and I think that's what I love about it. You mentioned writing.
Sorry, I was just,
Yeah, go on.
no, I was just thinking what you were saying there, because sometimes you say you lose yourself. You are actually translating an emotional experience or an emotional thought. That's why your brain sort of goes into flow, because what's happening is it's coming up and you're putting it on paper. And it is actually an emotion being translated into words through your writing.
Yeah, it's extraordinary actually. When you start doing it more, you realise the power it has, and there's so much. There's so many people now talking about what you're talking about here, but actually, are people really doing it? So walk me through your method. Your stop, breathe, listen, feel, write, rise. What do those 6 words, and why that order?
My passion for women's well-being came about through midlife women, helping midlife women, and I wrote a journal for them. And as I was going through the journals with them, lots of the questions came up. People said, "How do I journal? How do I do this? This is. Is there a method? Is there a way?" And I kept saying, "Well, no, you just literally get your pen and you just write." But it was amazing how many people just kept asking me. So I thought, well, now if I devise a method, then how do I do that? So I prepared myself to journal, and I found myself having to become self aware. So you have to stop. And I don't know if everybody has had a go at breath work, but my goodness me, have a go at breath work. It really is one of the most extraordinary experiences you will have. I met a very great guy called Stuart on BreathPod. He transformed my life, and I know, Caroline, you know him very well. He and Nova have the most amazing app. But breathing prepares you like nothing else can if you want to reach inside. And remember always that writing is about reaching inside, unless you're doing the shopping list. But breath work, it calms you down. You can do all sorts of different breath works, but the one that I do to prepare myself, this isn't a long process, but to prepare myself to write, it's just a short process. It's 5 breaths. So, but the exhale is the longer breath. So when you've stopped and you breathed, what happens is that your brain starts to change, and you are getting yourself in an environment that you want to write in. So therefore, you suddenly hear words that are coming. They're just coming because this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to find the challenge or the issue or the horribleness that's there that you want to write about. And it can be good stuff too, but at the moment it's about challenges. And so these words start to rise, and you've really got to listen to them. And that kicks off the emotions. So the feelings kick off the emotions. And that's when, or they could be pangs inside you, they could be palpitations of your heart, they could be feelings, they could be all sorts of things, but it definitely begins to happen because that's what you're concentrating on and that's what you're preparing yourself for. And that's when you start to write. You are writing because the emotion has come up and you're translating it into words. And people get frightened and scared, they do, because they're things, they're the truth, it lies within you. And I understand. So when I was doing this method, I was thinking, my goodness, this is the moment where I think, oh my God, I've got to commit this to paper and do not lie to myself. And I do truly feel it's possibly one of the only things in this entire world that we don't lie to ourselves. It's very easy, imposter syndrome, etc., etc. But from the brain to the hand to the paper, if you let a lie come in during that time, it's not what you're there for. Start again. So that's the rise is obviously at the end of when you've poured out everything. It could be a few words, it might be 9 pages, but you've actually reached that moment of knowing what that challenge is. And when you've had clarity with that challenge, when you've dissolved it, when you've processed it, you just feel better. And I always call that rising because I talk about frequencies and what frequencies and vibrations that we're on. And I love to try and live in a high frequency. Not try, I just do. Anyway, we could go on to positivity and all that, but that's another conversation.
So it's really interesting because we were together the other day and I said to you, oh, I've just got this pang. And it goes back to conditioning stuff, and it's and often when you've just got that feeling, I've learned that you sit with it and you let it come to you, and you feel it and you breathe, because we all have it, whether it's because something's happened in our lives, whatever, whether it's something's come through a text or an email or a financial thing or a health thing, that's the time when this sort of moment is feeling it. And then when you start writing in paper, it's like therapy, really. And I noticed, as I say, we were talking about it, and it was extraordinary. And then we mentioned something yesterday, which was patterning, because so often when I'm writing, I realise my patterns. And often those patterns are things that are holding us back because maybe it's patterning in our thinking, or it's because we go, I haven't got time to write. So it's patterning, putting things off, procrastination. And it's extraordinary what comes through on the page. But you always say, welcome every feeling rather than questioning it. So why does the feel deserve a step of its own, really?
So the feeling is the place that I stay longest because I want to feel it and I want to know where this feeling is coming from. And the feeling, it's so interesting that you say about patterns, because if you don't let the feeling come, you are just following the pattern of pushing it away. And this is all to do with your limited mindset. And your limited mindset is holding you back. And it's holding you because it's safe. And we all want to be safe.
Yeah.
That's why, everything's cozy. We have everything around us. It's good. But stepping out from that, going through that, brings even more clarity to your life, but it makes you feel brave. You can also feel, again, going back to the feeling, if you let it come and let it go, you've gone through the feeling. And on the other side, it's just wonderful because you've actually processed it, dissolved it, and got rid of it. I always use the expression of I wrote my book with a willow tree outside my window, this wonderful willow tree. And I always think, if we have a challenge or an issue, the thoughts, come through the willow tree. If you think of through a willow tree, it's got lots of fronds hanging down, actually a bit like my yucca. And we're going through this feeling or this thought or this process or this journey or whatever it is. And we sometimes get stuck and we have to dodge about and bob and weave and try and get through to the other side where there's freedom. And it is freedom we're looking for. And even if it's freedom of just that nasty thought, it's a great feeling.
Yes.
It's the most extraordinary feeling because everything we want, people, is on the other side of fear. I say want, I'm not talking about material things. I'm talking about a better feeling.
I've just been listening to the most extraordinary podcast actually when I've just done my walk, And he was talking about sometimes if you work in that fear or that's something that stimulates it, push it behind you, so not the future, and let it stimulate it and go through it. Oh my gosh, it was such an amazing analogy, and I don't know how you'd see that, but it was like, oh my God, just take it away and let that come behind you and give you the strength to move forward, to move through the fear.
So with fear, it's cortisol raging. And many of us live literally in this cortisol world. If we're not going to sit and write and deal with all of these things, we're pushing them down, and our body responds, our brain responds with cortisol. And to make us feel better, to have the quick hit, we'll have a drink or have a cigarette or do something that is a dopamine hit. We will reach out and grab something. And more these days, of course, it's scrolling. I'll just give myself 5 minutes just to get away from, and I mean, you couldn't do a worse thing if you tried. And I know there are things on apps, and I know there are things on Instagram and everywhere else that people are reaching out to that can help. But the thing is, you don't go there for the help because you continue to scroll. And I will say that, yes, there are great apps out there. I just mentioned one. There are great apps, and there they are. But I will be an advocate for writing. Go there, get your information. Fantastic. Your brain is taking it in. Reading absorbs you. Writing rewires you. So absorb everything from a book or an app or whatever it is. I deliver my 30 ebook library through a screen, but that's only for the reach. The encouragement is to write.
It's absolutely true, but also I think it's, I've always had this belief, and when I was speaking to Roger Frampton about the stretch coach, we were saying we are living where we're living at the moment. So just to cut it off and not do it is not always possible, and a lot of people don't want it. So I think the key thing that you give here is to inspire people to do this alongside that, as opposed to, no, you're being preached and don't do that, because people don't change like that. Change doesn't happen by force. Change happens by inspiring, showing, caring, and delivering, doesn't it?
Well, there's a big word there, change. There's a fantastic man called Alan Watts who said that the illusion is that change takes time. But the reality is change happens when you want it. And there will be lots of people who will be listening to this going, well, I don't want a journal. Journal has become a real sort of buzzword, and everybody's rolling their eyes and going, you're journaling. I call it handwriting as well. I absolutely say that you find things out there that are good for you. I'm totally not preaching. I am absolutely saying that there are only times in your life where suddenly you become self-aware and you want something different. That is change. When you want something different. And it's very, very key to understand that moment that you realize and become self-aware that you want something different, jump on it, because that's when you can change.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. You talk about women, so that, this over coping, trying to do all these things, juggling everything, day to day, and pushing things aside and etc. But what does that quietly cost them?
There's a theme running through my ebook library, and I chose it. It's an expression: as women, we tend to. And you can use that sentence in a few ways. As women, we tend to everybody else. As women, we tend to do this, do that, do the other. I go back to the cave every time. You're there in the cave, in the olden days, and you're looking after your children, and your other half comes along with a huge mammoth, and he throws it down in front of you, and he says, there you go, there's the mammoth. And then he runs off again to find another mammoth or do whatever he's running off to do. You are there to cope. You are there to look after the children, to keep the home fires burning. And that's what's happened through the ages. Women became that person. Yeah. But this coping mechanism of women, and it's become a thing, over coping. So especially, if you have things that you've got going on at home, you take them to work. If you've got things going on at work, you take them home. And unless you're processing all of this stuff, which can be just a quiet thought or two and a note or two on your way back from work or to work or whatever it is. As you say, time, sometimes there isn't enormous time to do everything. But we do take on too much. And then as we go through life, things change, and maybe the children leave, and maybe they go to school, or maybe whatever happens, there's that moment of, oh, and it's that moment I'm talking about again. What shall I do now? And we tend to look back, and we look back, or by the time we've overcoped too much, we've burnt out.
Do you know,
When your hormones start to change, when your hormones start to change, when you become perimenopausal, when you become menopausal, all of those things, we're not really aware sometimes that they're even happening to us. And overcoping with all of that too, it can be an absolute minefield.
so when a woman listening feels she's gone missing in her own life, you've talked about women going missing in their own life. Where would you start for her? She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know where she's going. She's lost. She's overcoping. All these things that you've been talking about. Where does she start?
Well, I love the fact that she has realised that she wants a change. And I also believe there are lots of versions of yourself within you. And that's why I say, try and find a better version of yourself if you're stuck. If you're stuck, write down why you're stuck. Write down what it is you're burnt out about. Even if it's just titles, talk to a friend. You can even type it out. But nothing is quite like writing it out, as I said before, because the truth lies within you and your pen and your pencil. And she can start also by looking at all the options. That's why I wrote this book, is because this journal is full of options for your mind, your body. Oh, look at you.
Look at that.
Your mind, your body, and managing your life. You have 138 options in this book about it. But also, you will find, if you talk to women, like-minded women, friends, they're going through a lot of the same things. And, there's a lot of strength to be found. Women are incredible communicators, absolutely extraordinary. And female-led businesses are doing my course. And, the easiest thing there is that everyone just offloads. They chat about their most personal things once I get it out of them. But it is fantastic. But communication is key. And if a woman is feeling terribly overwhelmed, the first thing to do is tell someone.
Yes, well, we're great communicators, and I know is talk about females, but I'm also having a mother of two boys and things. I'm very mindful of the boys too. They need to breathe, take time, and do some of these things. And I think it's great when they are talking to their friends too, and they are learning these skills. But I don't know. Sometimes you can put pen to paper, and you're writing, and this emotion comes up, and suddenly you almost stop. Sometimes you cry because it's bringing something up, and actually when that happens, and then you think, and then suddenly it's past because you put it down on paper, and the fear has come up, and you're feeling it, and you're thinking, okay, so what would you do in that situation? And there's a book that I read many years ago, which was Conversations with God. And I sometimes
Neil Donald Walsh.
Yeah, and I sometimes say, I had that conversation with God. It's having a conversation with you, having a conversation with who's inside you, and it's extraordinary. So I think there's a big thing now that obviously, individuals, people. There's a lot going on in podcasts. There's a lot of people helping women, but when it comes to caring for a woman's well-being within the corporate world, what does that look like, and why how can they help women in the workplace? Why is caring for women's well-being, why is it so important?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It is their mental health and their health, and I think businesses are recognising this more and more, and brilliantly through the menopause mandate have shown. And next year there will be different legislation in for women's wellness at work. But I feel that, women, they just are different. And there's a man and a woman. There are two sexes. And there is so much we can all do alongside each other. And I also feel that you can give people options and choices. And if a female founder or a female-led business is looking for something that they want to offer their females, as opposed to their males, that's where my women's wellness library comes in. But, it's not for everybody because not everybody can offer that to their people. But it is interesting how much traction I'm getting there. And I'm delighted because we operate differently at certain times in our lives.
And there's something about collaboration and people coming together and doing something together. It's very much of what I'm doing within the ENL collective, and is bringing people together, and it's extraordinary the power and the support you give each other, and so you don't become so isolated, and so journaling doesn't become such this sort of like, what's journaling? Should I really do it? It just becomes something that they do together.
Yeah, with journaling, I think it's a silent thing. I think if you think of things that you reach out for to make you feel better, when you're having a massage, or when you're going to doing meditation, or when you're doing breath work, it's a personal thing. I think it's a personal thing. But you can learn to meditate in groups, or you can learn to write in groups, or you can learn to do anything in groups.
Yeah.
But the actual physical doing of it, you go away and do on your own.
I think what I'm really going back to is this thing that you put together, the Right to Rise, that if it's a program that people can do, and they obviously do it on their own, it's lovely sharing that, because you realize that actually it's of interest to people, and that it starts the conversation, doesn't it, about how people are feeling, because they're starting to write, and they're starting to open up, and they're starting to understand themselves a lot better. And so what do you want every woman to know about herself by the time she closes a Right to Rise ebook?
I think I'm a great believer in if it's their choice which ebook they choose, and you tend to choose something because it's the pain that you're feeling, and that could be helping helping the pain. And what I've encouraged them to do, every ebook is set out in a way that it's broken into a framework, and they're all exactly the same, because I did the neuroscience behind this. And you create a habit if you create good habits, if you deal with something in the same way. So if you're dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with challenges, you can choose a book, choose the subject, and it's broken down into 3. And then you're asked lots of prompts and questions and told to go away to write in your journal. So what you're doing going through the library is you're creating your own well-being journal. It's not provided, it's just there, and all of the questions you will answer, and you will build up this beautiful well-being journal of your own. That is the idea.
So you've done it in a certain order. Just talk to me about that. Why it's in that order?
Well, funnily enough, I haven't done it in an order. What I've done, when you look at the website, libbla.com, I've done it in chapters. So I'm trying to keep the whole thing revolving around a library. They're shelves.
Yeah.
And each shelf has chapters. So you have 3 different chapters. And under there, what I've done is put the books like on the shelves pertaining to that, whether it's purposeful growth or energy. I put them in that way. So, but they're all filterable, and you can go and choose them and have a look at them and see what they mean. And then, so there's a library that everybody can buy on, a shop. And then there's also the company side, which is actually a license to sell the whole library to a corporate or a company. And then you get me one-to-one with that, and you also get coaching the whole way through it. So it's really flexible and fun.
Yeah. How long does it take you to put the whole thing together?
I would say I gave myself a year.
I think probably is 30 years, isn't it?
Well, yeah. If you take it back to where we began, we all end up being where we are right now, and we are the product of everything that has passed. And nothing we've ever done is a waste. And I think a lot of people look back a lot, and they say, oh my God, I wish I'd done it this way. Oh my God, I wish I'd done it that way. But you absolutely cannot say that, because the person that you are now is not the person that had that information then. That is a very easy thing to let go. And if anybody wants to go further into that, I'm more than happy to help them with that. It is paramount to know that the person you are today is different. You've learned and grown from those situations and from those decisions that you made then that you might be thinking you should beat yourself up about. Absolutely gone. It's gone. It's in the past.
So, in terms of people write, I'm going to show this look. So I thought I would bring these all my journals,
As you brought them along.
whatever it is. And actually, I don't want anyone to read what's in there. It's absolutely double Dutch half the time. It's just me pouring everything out. But I have been journaling, as I say, I'm going to show them because they're empty books. They've got pages of writing. All these pages of writing, and
So good.
it's extraordinary. And I just think, has that helped me? I don't know. I think I think it's been massive. I think it's been massive. I think you and I know each other and we know our journeys. And I think it's one of those things. It's like a non-negotiable routine for me. The journaling, my cold, my walking. It's like putting it into the tank in the morning for me. And it's hard because actually it's when I work. It's when I work best. It's first thing in the morning. My mind is so sharp. Yet I want to do all this other stuff. So my battle is sometimes is like, do I go for a walk or do that? And I just go, you won't go for the walk because you'll stay on it because you just keep going. And so it's like I have to, yeah, I have to really. It's like, no, this is non-negotiable.
Well, it's so interesting because I haven't talked about the loop and the repetitive thoughts sort of syndrome that we all go through. That 90% of our thoughts are repeated and they're negative, and we have 80,000 thoughts a day, and it is the loop that keeps going round. And unless you actually write it down on a piece of paper, is what you have to do: make your list, make your goals, do whatever. Writing breaks the loop, and because you're breaking the loop, that repetitive thought will pass. It is as simple as that.
It is, isn't it? It is because you suddenly realise that actually when you just come here and you it's like I put my pen on the paper and I go, oh God, it's like peace. It's really weird. It's almost like a form of escapism. It's almost like I shouldn't be doing this. It's too good. It feels too good. But hey ho.
It's interesting you say you journal in the morning because that's the other big question I'm always asked is when do we write? Do we write in the morning, evening? But you can write anytime you like, any place, anywhere, as long as you've got. I always have a little one with me, and you can write anytime, any place, anywhere, and it's free. Just go inside, and it's free. And whatever thought you're struggling with, just pop it down. It's easy. You don't have to have a swimming pool or whatever, or go somewhere, or you just take your little notebook and pen with you. Wow,
I think
how
it's
easy
really
is that?
interesting because you've got to go back to we are the products. Our children are the products of their parents a little bit. So that certainly when we did the home education, there was a time when actually I felt this huge pressure to be the mentor, to do everything right, correctly, whatever that means. But when children see you, when your family or your children see you cooking, or they see you dancing, or they see you journaling, or they see you looking after yourself, or whatever it is, and working and being very focused in your work, it doesn't have to just be home things at all. Particularly with the women out there who have got big, powerful jobs, huge pressure, and still running families alongside. And actually, some of these things are like a luxury to them, but they're not really, are they? Because they can help them enormously.
You have to be careful because lots of people. It's perspective in life. Again, this is a huge subject. Perspective. Some people think it is, and some people strive, and some people say, this is exactly what I want, this is where I'm going, and to the detriment, like we said earlier, to the detriment maybe of their relationships, their families, their whatever, because they're striving on and on and on and on and on to get what they feel might be the bigger house, the better car, the better holidays, the better. Materialism is quite an interesting thing. If it's what makes you happy, then you're living in that world. And you can still journal in that world. And people want different things in life. They really do. And one has to respect whatever anybody wants. There is no right or wrong in life, which is, something. But when you listen to the great masters, I like to call them, when you listen to whoever, Joe Dispenza or Alan Watts, I've mentioned him before, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Esther Hicks, all of these people, they lean on the spiritual. And I think that leaning on the spiritual can be a good thing in your life. You mentioned that Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh earlier. If you really want to know who I am, I have got a big golden light shining on me. That's what I believe. And I am the person. that puts the resistance in the way of the light that shines on me. And I don't try anything. I live in a way that I want the light shining and I want to shine. And so putting blocks in the way, I wish I'd done this, I could do that, why didn't I? Oh my God. All of these things, they're just resistance and stopping you moving forward. Moving forward is really what we're here for, because time is a luxury, and moving forward in the best possible way you can, with the people around you. Be separate from the good opinion of others. Do your thing as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But try and be in alignment with what's in your heart. Writing down your goals, writing down your dreams, write them to the absolute nth degree. You can write details. People call it manifestation. Write your dreams, put them in an envelope, put the envelope away and revisit it in 5 years' time. You'll be surprised as to how many of them came true because you put them in there.
Do you know, it's so funny because it was Kate Roham actually yesterday. She was desperately wanting to get some tickets for Wimbledon. She's a fitness coach, I think. I'm sure you know her. And anyway, and she literally decided to go and queue late, right, like at 3 o'clock in the morning for these tickets. And I sort of followed her on Instagram, and then she's been on the podcast before. Anyway, and there she was at Wimbledon. She said, "I think that's manifesting," and it's just like, it's just when people use this word manifestation, but it's like you set your intention, align yourself, synchronicity. It's extraordinary what happens, absolutely extraordinary what happens.
It is, but it is all energy, and you are creating that.
Let me just go back to one thing before we sort of finish this podcast. You talk about there's that block, the light comes in and there's that block. What do you mean by that?
No, the light's always shining, and it's us that creates the block. So it is us that is, when we get cross or when something happens, or life happens, and the more you get out there, the more people surround you, the more things go on, the more happens. The bigger the job, the more the people.
Yeah.
Everything that you are absolutely, and so life is just coming at you at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So this is what life is, and the more you live all that life, the greater it can be for you. Experiences are what talked about these days. Storytelling, having had experiences, and then telling people around them about them around you.
Yeah.
Sharing, all of this thing, but this is all happening through life's experiences. You can hide in a little, place and meditate your life away, but you're not experiencing life. And I think that a lot of unhappiness happens because you're not going out and experiencing life with people and doing lovely classes together. Don't do yoga at home, go to a class every now and then.
Yeah.
Get in touch, be with people. Environment is a really, really important place. Your environment, create lovely environments, not just at home, but just everywhere you go. You can take your energy with you and shine. And the block is when you're not doing that.
Yeah.
And the block is when you become a bit of a victim, and your world is a different place then. And that's also when you should start to write, when you really feel like, oh, feeling sorry for yourself. Let the feelings come.
Yeah.
Write them down.
Yeah. So I'd love you to leave our listeners with 3 things. There's always like the power of 3. I'm always a great believer in the power of 3, and you and I get that: inspire, engage, and bring people together. Believe hard work and tenacity can make many things happen. It's a very powerful number. But what 3 things would you like to leave our listeners with today?
Oh my goodness. I think if you were to start prioritizing yourself a little bit, if you can do that. I think a lot of people don't, and we have touched on this several times in this podcast. I think prioritize yourself. It is not selfish. You will find that you will begin to sparkle, and then as you sparkle, others will shine around you. It's taking a load off, taking weight off. So prioritize yourself, I think, is one thing.
Yeah.
I had to write them down because there's so many. I would say try to not scroll social media. I know Instagram's amazing and Facebook and being in touch with people, and all what you can do is time yourself. Just say, okay, I'm going to indulge myself. Of course, I'm not trying to lock you up in a cell and not do anything. You know, give yourself half an hour a day, 20 minutes a day, whatever you want to do to be in touch with your friends on Facebook and have a good scroll. And as we said earlier, apps are places where you can find huge help. That's one thing, but not scrolling. No scrolling. And be true to yourself. The truth will set you free. And if you are true to yourself and don't lie, as I said earlier, between the pen and the paper, you're going to be a whole lot happier. And knowing yourself and understanding yourself through just reaching inside, it is the most powerful thing you can do. You can change your whole life.
That is so powerful, Libbla. Thank you so much for all you're doing. You taught me so much, and I know you shared it with so many people that we know too. And I think this course that you've put together is absolutely extraordinary. On top of this book, you've got, what's the other book to share it out for the people who can see or watching this?
Well, my whole thing started by writing this for my godchildren. So this is one for teenagers. It's exactly the same format. It's just giving them something to think about. Don't lie, don't lie, don't lie. That came up. And yeah, so there's a couple of journals there, and
it's called Wisdom
and the ebook library.
For those people who are listening, Wisdom While You Work, and then the other one is Libbla's Wisdom for Women. And where can they find those books to start with?
Well, Wisdom While You Work has its own website, so it's wisdomwhileyouwork.com. And then it's Libbla.com is the platform. My brother couldn't say Elizabeth, so I got Libbla. And somebody said to me when I was choosing my website name, they said, why don't you use Libbla? Because it's such a silly name. You were given it. You may as well use it. So it is my platform, because it is the platform for this book and my ebook library. So, and I'm a one-to-one coach. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'd be happy to have a chat with them and see what I can help with.
And, you know, every time I jump onto it, because you've asked me to have a look at a couple of things, just to, you know, just check something, is some links working, whatever. Honestly, it is the most beautiful creation. You created it. And you know, as part of the work that we do, you know, my belief is always, you know, elevating people, elevating businesses, sharing what people do. And you've done so much for me, and you've helped me so much in so many ways, but also particularly this journaling. So I can't thank you enough for being on this podcast. And I hope everybody who's listening will go and have a look. It'll all be in the notes, the show notes, where you can find Libbla and listen to the podcast and share it. And let's get as many people writing as possible. Not just journaling, writing. Just get the pen out and start writing. Libbla, thank you so much.